We're the sons of the executives. We're invincible. If you don't like us coming in late, we'll all quit.
I sighed as I watched Ray speak confidently in front of me. I half expected it, but I never thought he'd actually say it out loud. I have no idea where that confidence comes from, but I can't help but be impressed by his high self-esteem.
I understand how y'all feel. This is a parting gift.
If I force people who aren't motivated to stay, it'll just make everyone miserable. So I accepted Ray and his friends' demands and handed them the envelope I had prepared.
What? No way. Why are we being fired?
It wasn't long before Ray and the others screamed after seeing what was inside the envelope. Strange, I thought they'd be happier now that they got what they wanted. My name is Jack White, a 41-year-old office worker. I went to local schools from elementary to college and even found a job locally. I figured I would live out my life as an ordinary employee until retirement. However, everything changed when I married my wife. I grew close to her while she was working as an office clerk at the company, and when the subject of marriage finally came up, I was completely shocked when I found out that her father, Thomas, was the president of Maxwell Corporation, the company where I worked.
Even though I'm the president, I'm just an employee too. So don't be too formal and just take it easy.
Thomas said, laughing when I visited him to tell him about our marriage. He might have downplayed it, but I knew he was a capable leader. Even after more than 10 years, Thomas continues to run the company as president. Because we became in-laws, I've developed a close relationship with Thomas, but I've always made sure to keep my personal and professional lives separate. After all, I'm the head of the HR development department, and I almost never work directly with Thomas. When we visit my in-laws, he sometimes asks about the company's atmosphere or how the employees are doing. But that never goes beyond casual conversation. Our relationship might differ a bit from the typical father-in-law and son-in-law dynamic, but we've managed to keep a good balance. My wife and I have been blessed with a son and a daughter, and while our days are busy, they're peaceful. Thanks to the company's steady performance, I've been able to enjoy my work without any issues. But that peace started to unravel when Keith, the head of HR, called me in.
Can we talk in the meeting room for a bit?
When he asked me that, I had a bad feeling I couldn't shake. As I listened, it was just as I expected. The issue was about this year's new hires. We had already finished the hiring process and extended job offers. This year, we already have 15 new hires, and now they want to add 5 more. All 15 have already been assigned to their departments, and hiring isn't cheap. Just thinking about the training and human resources costs made my head hurt. Apparently, these 5 are the sons of our executives and major shareholders. Even though they graduated from decent universities, they all failed to land jobs elsewhere and had nowhere to go.
Considering their connections, it's hard to turn them down, but at the same time, we can't just leave their training to regular employees who aren't aware of the situation. Could you take this on in the HR development department?
Since I'm the head of the HR development department, I guess it was inevitable this would fall to me. No thanks, too much trouble. If only I could say that. But that's the sorrow of an employee. And so, the fateful day of the welcome ceremony for the new employees arrived, which I'll never forget. For the new hires, this was a significant day filled with the tension of entering the workforce and the excitement for the future. But it seemed that the special hires didn't feel the same way. Or perhaps they did, but in a completely unexpected way. The 5 special hires were nowhere to be seen, even as the ceremony started. I was utterly shocked by the unprecedented situation. 5 seats were perfectly empty in the lineup. Whether it was sheer audacity or just reckless abandon, I was stunned.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ray, the son of the executive vice president. Nice to meet you.
They finally showed up after 3 p.m. I had assumed they wouldn't be coming at all, and I was stunned. Led by Ray Taylor, the son of the EVP, this special hire squad made their grand entrance, almost like some kind of Power Rangers team, and I was dumbfounded. With only a few hours left before the end of the workday, they had the nerve to show up late on their first day. I glanced over at Keith, who just gave me a pleading look as if to say, "Please handle this." Realizing I wouldn't get any help, I felt a sense of despair. Are they just free-spirited, or what? I muttered to myself in disbelief, but I couldn't just stand there looking stunned forever. As their direct supervisor, first impressions were crucial. I gathered my resolve and walked over to where they were chatting away. Ahem, that's quite a leisurely start to your day. As far as I know, we haven't approved any flexible work hours for you yet. As professionals, it's good manners to notify us in advance if you're going to be late. Make sure to follow that from now on. I cleared my throat and laid down the rules, but they just looked at me with puzzled expressions. It was only a moment later that I realized I had underestimated this special hire squad.
Is that so? Well, in that case, can you file those notifications for us? Also, you should be mindful of cough etiquette. It's part of professional manners. Before telling others what to do, make sure you're setting a good example yourself. Take care of that in the future.
What? They had turned the tables on me, and it took me a moment to understand what had just been said. Why on earth should I be the one filing their notifications? And cough etiquette? Equating my manners with their colossal tardiness on their first day was absurd. And so began the fierce battle between me and the special hire squad. I don't mean to brag, but I think I have a pretty strong mental fortitude. Growing up, my 2 much older sisters toughened me up, so I can usually let things slide and adapt to most situations. But now I've become best friends with stomach medicine. That's how challenging this squad turned out to be. First off, no matter how many times I told them, they wouldn't stop coming in late. They'd show up around 3 p.m., putter around, and leave around 9 p.m.
The times are changing, you know. Don't you think it's outdated to expect everyone to work from 9 to 6? People have their own situations. We're putting in over 40 hours a week, so it shouldn't be a problem.
What's even more frustrating is that they do just enough work from home to clock over 40 hours a week, making it impossible to dismiss them. Sure, they logged more than 40 hours online, but at the office, they mostly just chatted. Are they really working at home? I seriously doubt it. But that wasn't the only problem.
We're the sons of the executives, you know. I think it'd be wise for you to listen to us.
They would use their parents' positions to push the tough work onto other new hires. This came to light when a new employee in tears confided in their mentor. I gave them a stern warning, but whether they listened or not was unclear. Since then, I've been watching them closely, reminding them repeatedly to handle their own work, but there's been no improvement. They even tried to dragging female employees into after-work drinks using the same tactics. Sometimes they'd just hang out in a break room, chatting away from 3 p.m. until it was time to leave. Maybe if I were with them all the time, it wouldn't happen, but I've got my own duties as a manager. Even when I reported this to Keith or the executives responsible for these problems, all I got was, "Please, just manage it somehow." Do you think if I got a doctor's note, I could take sick leave?
Your take-home pay would drop. You'd get disability insurance, but it's only 60% of your base salary.
I've worked hard, but I've come to realize I'm not equipped to handle this. I don't have even a shred of patience or willingness to nurture this special hire squad. In a casual chat with Keith, I seriously discussed the possibility of taking sick leave. My stomach, battered by the special hire squad, was on the verge of collapse, and lately my lunches consisted of nothing but quick meals.
You need to eat something more nourishing.
I know, but this is all my stomach can handle right now. When I muttered this, Keith fell silent. I hate to say this, but can't we just fire all of them? They're nothing but a waste of space, and with them running wild like this, it's killing the motivation of the other new hires.
I'm well aware of that.
Though I didn't say it out loud, my frustration at Keith for not doing anything was written all over my face. But Keith graciously let it slide.
If they're going to play the connection card, then you should too. An eye for an eye. You've got a powerful connection of your own, don't you?
Keith's words made me look up. It was a strategy I hadn't considered before. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I did have something. A trump card that would work even against the special hire squad. Won't I be accused of mixing business with personal matters?
You could just say, "Who's talking?" and throw it back at them. They started it. We've endured long enough.
With that subtle green light, I finally saw a glimmer of hope in this stalemate. And so, fully prepared, I faced the day of reckoning. I've scheduled an important meeting, so make sure you're in by 9 a.m. I made sure to tell the special hire squad in advance, reminding them multiple times. But as expected, they were late. At this point, their unyielding attitude was almost laughable. While waiting for them to show up, I slowly reviewed the documents I had prepared. The forms I submitted earlier had been signed and returned, so I carefully placed each one into an envelope. The envelopes were addressed to the members of the special hire squad, and I planned to hand them out. "Well, thank you for gracing us with your presence. We agreed on 9 a.m., didn't we? Did you forget? We're short on time, so let's keep this brief." It seemed they had quite the night before, as all 5 of them showed up reeking of alcohol. Some were even stumbling, likely suffering from severe hangovers. Half smiling, I politely guided them to the conference room where Keith was already waiting.
All right, let's start by hearing why you're late. I informed you about the important meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. today, and we confirmed it yesterday, didn't we? If you were going to be late, you should have let us know.
Sorry, but as you can see, we're all feeling pretty rough. We didn't want to come in today, but we made the effort. If we collapse from the strain, can we file for workers' comp?
Ray responded with a string of excuses, almost mocking my stern expression, which made me sigh. Ray was always like this, claiming rights without fulfilling his obligations.
I doubt it. The responsibility for a hangover lies with you, not the company. We didn't force you to drink, did we? Also, I haven't heard an apology for being late.
I already said sorry at the start, didn't I?
Keith jumped back into the conversation. There was a slight hint of sarcasm in his tone, which immediately made Ray bristle with anger.
Oh, did your dad teach you that saying sorry for being late because of a hangover would make everything okay?
Keith's quick-witted response made me nervous just listening to it.
Insulting specific new hires and their parents like this. If this gets out, it could be a huge problem. If my dad hears about this, you won't last at this company.
Oh, I see. So you think you can use your dad's influence to get me fired? Impressive.
Keith's comment made Ray burst into laughter. Whether it was because he was tickled by the idea or still a bit tipsy, he couldn't stop laughing, even though it wasn't that funny.
We're the sons of the executives. We're invincible. If you don't like us coming in late, we'll all quit.
Ray's forced laughter twisted his words and made his sentences nonsensical. It was as if they were still stuck in their teenage years, laughing at anything and everything. The rest of the special hire squad, inspired by Ray, joined in the laughter.
I understand how you all feel. Consider this a parting gift.
At Keith's instruction, I handed out the familiar brown envelopes I had prepared. As the special hire squad laughed and looked at the contents, their faces froze instantly, turning pale in a matter of seconds, followed by a collective scream.
What? No way. Why are we being fired?
Ray was the first to speak up, clearly shocked. The rest of the special hire squad seemed to snap back to reality and started complaining one after another. It's a termination notice. Is this your first time seeing one? This is also the first time our company has issued a termination notice just 1 month after hiring someone. Congratulations on setting a new record. I stated this calmly, and Ray's face turned as red as if he were about to explode.
Does my dad know about this? If he did, there's no way he'd allow.
At that moment, Ray's words trailed off. It seemed he had finally noticed the signature on the termination notice addressed to him. You've noticed, the executives aren't exactly sitting around with nothing to do. It's a hassle to report every one of your misdeeds and get their approval, so I went straight to the top and got Thomas's signature. This is no mistake. I smiled as I placed a report summarizing their misconduct on the table. Multiple instances of tardiness, ignoring work orders, harassing other employees, slacking off on the job, and more. It was impressive how much trouble they managed to cause in just 1 month. It was like a year's worth of employee issues all rolled into one.
No matter how connected you are, some things can't be overlooked. If you want to stay in that student mindset, maybe you should go back to school. Here, in the company, you're expected to have the skills to contribute.
I'll tell my dad. You'll be the one getting fired, not us.
Even after all that, Ray still had the guts to keep barking, but Keith remained unshaken, his calm expression unwavering. In fact, Keith stood up, walked over to the partition at the back of the conference room, and slid it aside. The sight that greeted the special hire squad left them speechless. And for good reason. Standing there was none other than Thomas, the current president of Maxwell Corporation.
Were you not paying attention? I'm the one telling you directly. You're fired. It shouldn't even be a question who's more valuable to the company. A bunch of useless brats like you or hard-working employees like Keith and Jack.
Thomas smiled cheerfully as he stood before the special hire squad, seeming to enjoy himself. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing at the sight of him, a man more likely to be described as having a good sense of humor than simply being nice.
You tricked us. You never mentioned anything about a meeting with Thomas.
Ray, now furious, stormed up to me, but I just tilted my head. I told you there was an important meeting and that you needed to be here by 9 a.m. You chose to skip it, didn't you? Blaming others isn't going to help you. I countered the special hire squad's protests with a straight face. If they had followed the basic manners and rules of being a professional, this wouldn't have happened. I wasn't going to let them shift the blame for their laziness onto anyone else.
I heard all about you guys, but I never imagined you'd have the guts to skip a meeting with me. You've got some nerve. With such boldness, there's no way you'd fit into a place like this. Go ahead and spread your wings in the world.
Thomas laughed heartily, and Ray ground his teeth in frustration. The special hire squad had no idea that Thomas was my father-in-law. I didn't want to mix business with personal matters, but I had reached out to him through my wife and arranged this meeting. An eye for an eye, a connection for a connection. Thomas himself had once been a special hire, so he couldn't strongly oppose bringing in the sons of the executives. As a hired president, he also felt a bit inferior to the seasoned executives who had worked their way up. He had thought that if they were special hires who actually did their jobs, it would be fine. But he never expected such an incompetent bunch to join the company. After receiving a detailed report from me, Thomas decided to step in and resolve the situation that had been left to HR. Not long after, the executives, summoned by Thomas, began filing into the conference room. They had already been informed of their son's disgraceful behavior and looked uneasy now that they were being personally called in by Thomas.
I share some of the blame for not putting a stop to this sooner, but this is beyond unacceptable. It's clear they don't meet our company's standards. Does anyone object to their dismissal?
Thomas looked around at the executives, and when no one voiced any opposition, he nodded with satisfaction. The special hire squad, betrayed by the very fathers they had relied on, crumbled. Some were on their knees, begging to stay, while others angrily confronted their fathers. As for Ray, he just stood there trembling, glaring at his clenched fists on the table.
I'm not saying all special hires are bad, but shouldn't you at least try to be useful? Dragging down the other employees who join through regular channels is out of the question. And let me say one last thing. Your dads might be important, but that doesn't make you important.
The special hire squad, who had been coddled their whole lives without facing any real setbacks, couldn't take the blow. As if on cue, all 5 of them burst into tears, which was a bit off-putting. In the end, the special hire squad left the company that same day, and we finally enjoyed the peace that had returned. Meanwhile, the remaining executives were left feeling awkward and humiliated. Those who had reached a certain age were stripped of their positions and faced the humiliating question, would you like to extend your employment? Their previous compensation was also drastically reduced. Those who barely managed to hold onto their executive positions are now feeling the pressure as the newly appointed executives ruthlessly cut down their previous inefficient practices, leaving them feeling increasingly marginalized. Some were even exiled to remote assignments or reassigned to the complaints department, and it's secret that I quietly bid them farewell with a prayer. And, as expected, or perhaps unsurprisingly, as for Ray and the others, well, as expected, they're struggling to find new jobs. Given that they couldn't land a single offer during their initial job hunt and have now burned their precious family connections, it's hard to imagine them securing employment easily. Though they received termination notices, Thomas, in a final act of kindness, allowed the special hire squad to resign voluntarily. If they had been officially terminated after just a few months, their job search would have been extremely difficult. Who knows when they'll ever realize the consideration behind that decision? They might never understand it. Now that I'm free from the special hire squad, my stomach has made a remarkable recovery. I've regained the weight I'd lost, and I'm back to enjoying healthy meals. What a relief.
Given what happened this time, we've decided that even special hires will have to undergo a certain level of aptitude testing. You've been through a lot, Jack, so how about we grab a meal together? I'll treat you to whatever you want. What'll it be?
Maybe some barbecue. It's getting hot, and I'm in the mood for something hearty. Keith's face visibly tightened at my suggestion, which I made after a moment of thought. You were the one who interviewed the special hire squad before they joined, right? I just happened to hear a little something through the grapevine.
Well, I'm lucky to have such a capable subordinate. How about we add some seafood and chicken too?
Keith quickly agreed, going along with my continued banter. Keith must have sensed how troublesome the special hire squad would be when he interviewed them. Since he didn't warn me and just handed them over to me, I think I'm entitled to a little indulgence. Thinking about how some good barbecue might restore both my worn-out body and spirit, I geared up to tackle my afternoon work. And when I got home with barbecue for the whole family, my wife greeted me with a comment like, "That weight loss looked just right on you." I pretended not to hear it.